All right.
Perfect.
So the next
I do
question
have a
is,
question. I do have a question, not to interject, that Atara asked, and I think that she had to leave, so I want to make sure that I get it in for her.
Uh-huh.
She asked, "What does darkness smell like?"
What does darkness smell like?
Like there's
Yeah.
Zexion and Riku in the Kingdom Hearts series can both like apparently smell darkness. So what do you think that smells like?
Yeah, I was gonna say they can, but I don't know. I don't believe I can. Well, I'm gonna give you an unusual but true answer. I have actually smelled death. There was a time when I was going to visit a friend who lives in an apartment complex, and the manager had to go follow up at a tenant's home and said the tenant had not been responding. So the lights were off, and it was at night, and he needed to go in there and asked if we could help. I said, of course, because unlike most people, I'm very comfortable with uncomfortable situations. If a situation is comfortable, then I'm more uncomfortable, if that makes any sense. I'm more comfortable at funerals than weddings. It's a fact. There's a whole story behind it, but probably because I went to more of them growing up. My grandmother, both of them came from big families. So as a little boy, I went to lots of funerals. So it was just a normal thing to do. Anyway, so this guy is afraid to go into this apartment, and he's got the keys and a flashlight. And I say, all right, I'll go in. So I opened it up, and the lights were off, which means the electricity hadn't been paid, which means nothing had been active for, God, at least close to a month, I would say, or more. And I'm walking around in there, and it's dark, and it was so quiet and so silent. You know, you felt like you were in a horror film where you're like, something's going to come around the corner. And I saw bags of things. And my greatest fear was that there would be an animal there, like a dog, who would be protective of his or her owner. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I turned a corner into the bathroom, and I did see a body, and the body was distended because of natural gases, and it was darkened in color so that you couldn't tell what race the person was. And I was far enough away, and the body was turned upside down. I couldn't even tell what gender. And so I left it at that, and we had to call the police and fire. That to say, there is a smell of death. And it reminds me of a song by a Southern band from the 70s who are still touring today called Leonard Skinner. And they had a song called That Smell. And they say, ooh, that smell, the smell of death. The smell of death's around you. So my answer is, if you've ever smelled death, that might be the closest thing to being able to smell darkness I could imagine.
God, that must be so inconvenient for Zexion in the castle, because all of the nobodies smell like darkness. So it's just like, oh God, you guys smell terrible. I'm gonna throw up.
Well, maybe, except I'll be honest with you. Maybe it's the way I described it. It didn't make me want to throw up. It was just a very specific smell. I think one would get used to, just in the same way that I got used to the smell of skunks growing up where I grew up. And when people smell skunks, they go, oh, gross. But I smell it, and I go, oh, that reminds me of when I used to drive home from work late at night when I was like 16, 17 years old, and I was hot, and I was tired, and I was ready for a cool beer.
It's actually funny, because I thought that I was literally the only other person that wasn't bothered by skunks.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very, very small rural town, so there were a lot of them.
There you go. So yeah, but right on. See, good. You and I we're kindred spirits. Yeah, I grew up in a rural area too, a little place called Mayfield Village, way northeast outside of Cleveland. And but yeah, if they smell darkness, I should ask you guys, how do they react to the smell of darkness, or do they just talk about it?
They usually use it to try and like identify who else is around.
Ah, yes, I figured as much. Yeah. But they don't freak out about it. It's just kind of like, guess who's around? Let's see who it is.
Like, oh God,
Yeah,
Axel here.
we smelled. Yeah, they would never say that.
Vaccine might.
No, well, maybe. Yeah.
In the novels, it's actually described as having a sour scent.
Oh, okay. Well, it might be different than death. And that's what I was going to say, because death is not necessarily an awful scent. It's just a unique scent. But darkness, yeah, I would say darkness, especially people, I think, associate darkness with fear or danger. I'm sorry, with danger. Except me, I associate darkness with sleep, birth by sleep. Womp wow.
Womp womp.
Okay, that's the only wompy joke you'll get from me. Everything else will be top shelf.
All right, I'll make sure that I clip that segment out. Specifically.
It's okay.
There can't be any evidence.
No, but I went there on purpose because I knew if I didn't, someone else in the audience was thinking it. If I just said sleep, they'd go, like birth by sleep? Yes.
Her.
It's a race for the pun.
Right.
All right, next question. Is there, this one's from Drea. Is there a line from any character you've played that has stayed with you for any reason?
Is there any line from any character that I've played that has stayed with me for any reason? Well,
Yes.
it would have to be Got It Memorized because people are constantly asking me to say it and mocking me if I don't. But is there a line that's stuck with me beyond anything any fan has wanted me to say? No. Well, there's only one. That would be my spider sense is tingling, because I used to read Spider-Man growing up, and I used to watch Spider-Man cartoons, and then I got to play Spider-Man in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance. So
that was you?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I played Spider-Man in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, which I'm glad you played, and because he to me was really the first stand-up comedian in the superhero world. He's the only one with a sense of humor, and very ironic. Great sense of irony. And then also, I got to play Venom in Spider-Man Friend or Foe.
I played that one.
There you go. So then you
Also, we got this covered.
You both. Yeah. So Van, have you played Friend or Foe or no?
I have not, no.
Well, look at that. You both played with me, and I've played with myself. How about that, folks? You see how that works? Yeah.
All right.
I'm Venom. Friend or Foe.
People are for the record just completely losing it over not knowing that you were in the Spider-Man games, especially tabletop. Tabletop is very excited.
Oh, good. Well, I'll give them a little more from the Marvel world. I was also the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four series in the 90s. I was the Human Torch in Special Wars, which was a series guest spot on the Spider-Man series. I was the Human Torch in one of the Marvel's games. I was Banshee, Abyss, who were two villains in the Marvel Universe. Also in the Avengers, I guested as Malekith the Accursed, who is another Marvel villain. And there's one I'm leaving out. Abyss Arcade. There you go. That's another Marvel character. So all in all, I think I've done about 7 or 8. And Deadpool. I've played in a YouTube series called Cartoon Hookups, which you can go to and hear me and see me in about 5 episodes. So how about that? That should be blowing Tabletop's mind right now, left and right.
It is. He's screaming. So
excellent. Good.
He's a good boy.
There you go.
That was the end of Tabletop.
I'll miss him. He was a good boy.
That's right.
All right. Next question is: what were your thoughts that you got the call/email to come back in voice relay in Birth by Sleep?
I'm sorry.
Later on, Dream Drop.
What were my thoughts on what reprising my role?
The call, yeah.
I was thrilled. I was thrilled as I'm still waiting for that to happen with KH3. They've announced it, and I'm just waiting for the call.
Is there?
I can't.
My personal.
I don't think that anyone could. I don't think anyone else could do it.
No, they couldn't. They not like me. So it should be happening, because of course they announced it. But how many times have they announced it? And I did get a message last night, and I can say this because it was on social media. You guys probably already know this. James Woods tweeted. Someone asked him, like, "Hey, we haven't seen your tweets in a long time. Did they delete your Twitter account?" He's like, "No, I've been busy. I think he said playing poker and doing a new Kingdom Hearts game. And that was James Woods. You know who James Woods is, the actor, right?
Hades.
Yeah. So he wrote that in a tweet, and I thought somebody approached me. I won't say who on social media, and I said, "Nah." That couldn't have been James Woods. But James knows better. And then they showed me the tweet from his official Twitter account, and I went, well, I said, one of two things happened. Either they didn't make him sign a one of three things happened. Either A, they didn't make him sign a non-disclosure agreement. B, they said, James, tweet about it, talk about it. You know, we're fine with you doing that. Or C, am I allowed to curse?
Mm-hmm.
All right, he went, hey, fuck it, I'm James Woods. I'll do whatever I want. So according to this tweet, it says that James Woods was working on the new Kingdom Hearts game. So he would be Hades.
Which
Anyway.
I think that's strange because as of just a few just as of the last trailer drop, which was about a month ago, I believe, they said that they weren't even like halfway through production at this point. So I doubt that they would be doing the English voiceovers by this quite yet.
Yeah.
Unless they're doing voicing for the trailers in English.
I guess.
Because Hades was in the first Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer, you're right.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? That because we, as actors, I mean, for years now, and that's been the kind of the bane of my existence, signing these non-disclosure agreements. Now, I understand that companies want to hold off on promoting it, but it just makes more sense to me. Like if I was working on a project that I could talk about it in advance, I think fans would be just as excited to find out sooner.
More so.
Than I would think even more so, like because the buildup would be amazing.
Yeah, like say, like people didn't know who the voice cast of Birth by Sleep was going to be until it was already out. But they had Liam, not Liam Neeson.
Lee Pace.
They had like
Liam Neeson.
Hamill.
And
What? They had Mark Hamill as Ericus, and
right.
And why would you not want Mark Hamill promoting your video game?
Right. I know. It's so strange. Well, I've not gotten a proper answer from anyone, except that I think that they all want to control it. And perhaps when it comes to marketing and sales, maybe they know something we don't. Maybe it conflicts with other projects. I guess they like to keep the hype hidden as long as they can. So, yeah. Anyway, back to the top of that question. Yes, I was thrilled to get that, and I'm always thrilled to be asked to work on any project. I love what I do.
My personal follow-up question is, voicing a younger version of a character that you've already worked with. Does that present any interesting challenges for you?
What do you mean, like having to do Lee after
having to do 12-year-old Lee as opposed to like 22-year-old Axel?
Yeah, it was a bit of a challenge because we kind of had to. I want to say we because it is a collaborative effort. I had to find the voice, but we, along with the producers and the director, had to find the voice for Lee that they thought was appropriate when we were doing it. And it's one of those things where, like I think I've said before, but I may do a voice and I may see it as a certain way that I think suits a character, but they may see it a bit differently. So it is a collaborative effort in trying to find a happy medium. And once we did, it was great. And again, because I don't see anything when we're doing it, they record me and then they sync it up later. When I saw it later, I went, oh, because again, I go away and it doesn't come out for months, or maybe a year or God knows how long. And then when I finally see the finished product, I go, oh my God, that does work. That works really well. That's cool. And I can see and hear that difference between Lee and Axel in action. And then, this is going to sound strange, but it's true. Then, because I've seen it and heard it together, I can then recall it easier, almost like doing an impression of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. I love being able to one of the I'm a writer, so it's always interesting looking back at some of my older works and being able to see them with fresh eyes. And I've rewritten things that I've written like months or years in the past, and being able to look at that concept and be like, oh, I had a really good idea right here, and then I can make something just as good, if not better.
Right. And as we grow, we change with our thoughts as well and our experiences.
You come at things with a different perspective.
Yeah.
Now, does on the line of growing as a person, do you feel like it's easier to be doing the same role over something that's happening sequentially, like going from Chain of Memories to Kingdom Hearts 2, being able to voice that version of Axel at a earlier point in his life to going to Kingdom Hearts 2 Axel, where he's at the peak of his character development? Is it an interesting challenge that Kingdom Hearts keeps coming out in the wrong order?
Yeah, it's different for sure. I think it may be more of a challenge for the creators than it is for me, because because they kind of have to keep track of what it was like and where it went, and like you're saying, kind of sequel prequel type of a thing, more so than I do, because having done a project some years before and then coming back around, it's incumbent upon them to know, well, maybe he shouldn't sound this rugged at this point. Maybe he should be more sensitive here, less sensitive there. Oh, this refers to that, doesn't refer to this. Oh, he shouldn't have known this by now. You know what I mean? Those are things that they that is incumbent upon them to know. I'll do the performance based on what material is put in front of me, and then in terms of the quality control, if you will, it's kind of on them. And you guys are playing the game, so if it's working, then I guess we're all doing our jobs.
Absolutely. My favorite performance of yours is the Chain of Memories and Reverse Rebirth for the PlayStation 2, with the progression that Axel's character makes in your performance as the game progresses forward. And I think that your performance as him is probably one of my favorite examples of acting a character growing throughout a project.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I actually reference that game a lot when I'm teaching about writing and acting. So you're actually one of my go-tos.
Awesome. I love it. I'm honored. I'm truly honored, because that's important to me. It's all about acting. When people say, what's voice acting? How do I become a voice actor? I always say, well, it starts with acting.
Mm-hmm. Ben, do you have the next question?
Yep, the next question, and it's a voice request. Maya asks if you can make Axel and Silver have a silly argument, which I don't know if we would do that now or at the end.
It would be at the end. We're waiting on voice stuff until the very end.
Yeah.
All right, so note that down.
I will make a note on my document.
Am I seeing like some of these comments repeating themselves within the comment section?
Sometimes there's a glitch that makes things repeat. It's something that happens when there's a lot of people in a room at a time.
Oh, I thought maybe it was me. I was like, what? I'm seeing the same stuff.
Intense deja vu.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so the next question was, what got you into voice acting? And since we know that was acting, what got you into acting?
Well, let's see. I always loved a very lively family, and there was a lot of singing going on, very playful. I loved listening. We listened to music in the house all the time. There was a lot of singing. I loved watching TV. I was glued to it like anybody else. I loved Saturday morning cartoons. I loved action stuff. I loved the Batman and Robin live action TV show that they used to rerun. I loved all action cartoons. I loved films, everything from Wizard of Oz to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, to all the Mel Brooks movies. Well, you name it, and then TV, movies, radio, theater. We'd go see some plays. And then somewhere in grade school, it turns out, as I looked over some old reports and report cards and certificates, apparently I was, and in fact, I remember one time in grade school doing some acting. There were some acting exercises that we actually had to improvise. And I had no problem doing it. So it's just something that was there for me innately. I also know that I used it as a way to get along. Um, there's something in psychology called deflection through humor. So it's a form of self-defense, really. You want to not get hurt or get in trouble or please people. It's also a form of people pleasing, is you can deflect through humor or comedy. And I would use my comedy chops. I didn't know that's what they were called at the time, but making people laugh, doing impressions of other people, which was something I had a faculty for, and being a kind of a bit of a cut up from time to time, being a quick wit and a class clown. I somehow found my way in through junior high to a little bit of the drama club, but more specifically, ninth grade high school. My friend Mike Bogo said, we're going to go audition for the high school play. Now, that was a big deal because in my high school, you had grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I was terrified of all these students who were older than us, because at that point, people are, they're maturing, and somebody who's a junior in high school or a senior, they look like an adult. And I said to him, no, I can't do that. And he said, sure you can. We're going to go. My brother, he's a junior, and he loves it. It's great. And I said, I don't know. I'm scared. He's like, come on, there's nothing to be frightened of. And he said, besides, there's girls. I'm like, really? He said, yeah, it's a great way to meet chicks. I'm like, all right, well, I'll give it a shot, but I don't know if I'm going to be any good at this. And it turns out I not only was I good at it, I loved it. And I remember the first time stepping out into the lights on stage as I passed the curtain in front of a live audience. I was a freshman. The play was Cinderella, and I had a non-speaking role, but my character had a name. He was called Page Paul. And a page is really kind of a servant, if you will. And I was holding a banner on my soldier. I was holding a banner on my shoulders. And I came walking out, and I had to do it just at the precise time because there was another page opposite me across the stage. So I'm standing there with my profile, and I'm kind of looking out of the side of my left eye, and I see this big audience staring at the stage, and I'm thinking, I have to do this right. I have to do this right. And it was at that moment when I went, I like this a lot, and I think I'll be doing this for a while. I didn't know I'd be doing it for a career, but turns out that's where it started. So from there, I just grew. And as you heard me say, I used to do a lot of impressions as a kid. I did character voices, making fun of our friends as we do. Many of us have the ability to imitate them. So with all those skills, once I got into college, I started pursuing radio, television, and film in addition to theater. And one summer before I graduated university, I saw a class for voiceover acting for commercials. And I took that course, and that was one of the first times I got an inkling of what it would be like to act behind a microphone. So that's where it started, folks. That's where it started, in a suburb of Cleveland. First Mayfield Village, Ohio in high school, and then Beechwood, where I recorded at, I don't know, commercial recording or something like that.
I do have a quick follow-up question to that.
Mm-hmm.
Were there girls?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there were. Yeah, there were. And for a shy guy like me, it was awesome because, I was shy, so I didn't know quite how to talk to them. But yeah, there were loads of them. And I was actually telling a friend of mine who's a makeup artist the other day, one of the best parts was when we were backstage and the gals were doing the makeup on us. And they were usually a bit older. They'd be at least probably 2 years older. They were juniors and seniors, skilled with makeup, and they're doing our makeup on your face, the whole nine. And they're getting close to you as they're doing their skill. And they were pretty and they smelled nice. And I just was like, oh, I'm in heaven. I don't know if it gets any better. And it did. The older I got, the better it got.
Well, it's because you get new. It's like a skill tree. You unlock better girls the more experience points you get. So
Wow, I like that.
Oh my God.
That sounds like a video game. A skill tree. I'm still working on that, to be honest, and I like it. Sometimes I actually have to step back because you have a skill set,
you don't want to get overpowered.
right, and also
It
you
just makes the
approach
game
someone
not
with
fun anymore.
a certain skill set and they're not there, then you have to step back and go, oh right, and, it's kind of like I'm trying to talk Latin to somebody who only speaks English.
All right.
Yeah,
Moving on to the next question.
skill tree. I like that.
Skill tree.
All right. Blup asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like playing as Lee or Axel?
Oh well, gosh, it would have to be 10. you know 10. Yeah. Is it one or the other or both?
Both, I think. But do you
Yeah.
have one that you prefer?
No, no. I prefer them equally, and 10. Absolutely.
All right. So next question. What did you first think when you were on the set voicing Axel for Kingdom Hearts 2?
My first thought.
When you
I
first
guess this one is similar
recording
to the
this,
the callback question from earlier.
I'm sorry. It was a callback question.
I think it's just a different wording of a question that we already have, so we can move past it.
Yeah, I don't know what my first thought would be, except I hope I can remember how to do the voice,
Mhm.
and I hope they like me. And do they have any snacks here? Uh, I need some bottled water. How long is the session going to be? Uh, you know, I know it sounds silly, but things like that, like just kind of regular human being stuff.
Do you have to when you're called back for the same character, do you have to practice that character's lines that you did last time to get back into the voice, or do you just fall back into it?
Usually they have what they call a reference track for me, and it will be some lines of Axel or Lee, and they'll play them for me. So yeah, so that I can get back into him or him, and because sometimes I have a certain way of thinking about them in my head that may be different than the way we actually recorded them, and so I get into the vibe, and we start doing the character, and sometimes they'll have to stop, pause, and play the reference again for me, and then and then once we get into a flow, then it's all good.
All right. The next question was from Liam. What would you be doing if you weren't voice acting?
Gosh, I don't know. Well, I do, I do as an artist. I do a lot of different things. I'm most known for my voice acting, but I'm also a singer-songwriter. I'm a improvisational comic. So I might be doing more on camera work, maybe some plays. Right now, I am developing an act I have with a couple of other guys, a musical comedy trio called the Snozzberries. And
Yes,
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram.
yeah, it's incredible. It's so much fun. Really, the concept is we are three latchkey kids who have the same mother but different fathers because our mother was a groupie touring around with these bands. So we are the offspring of her by three different dads from three different famous rock groups. And we grew up watching TV. Our TV was our babysitter. And so we loved everything about cartoons and TV and movies. And so that comes out in what we do musically, which are the songs and themes of cartoons, TV shows, and movies. And then we have our own original songs as well. And with the three of us, there are three distinct personalities, which creates some kind of conflict. And there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to the story that we're going to probably be looking to tour as a jukebox musical. That's kind of what they call it. If not, at the very least, touring these songs. And occasionally we will go live, which is why we'd love people to follow us on Facebook, which is the official, the Snozzberries official.
It's
And
also linked in the post on the front page if anyone wants a link to it directly.
Oh yeah, and that's for Instagram. We've done a couple of live sets already. We'll do more, and we do everything from the Rainbow Connection and Pure Imagination to Scooby Doo and Speed Racer and God knows what else. So Singer-songwriter, that's an answer to one of the questions if I wasn't voice acting. Stage, TV, film acting, I've done a bit of that. Sketch comedy, impressions. Yeah, I guess that,
Always
that
somewhere in the artistic spectrum.
always,
somewhere in that
yes,
sport.
always something artistic. Yeah, absolutely.